Welcome back to our deep dive into the problems facing young men. Joining me now, Rahm Emanuel, CNN senior political and global affairs commentator, and so much more. Former Obama White House chief of staff, member of Congress, mayor of Chicago, ambassador to Japan. He's authored the Washington Post op-ed, What's Really Depressing America's Young Men, noting only 30 years ago, the median age of a first-time homebuyer was 28, and today it's 38. Ambassador, welcome back. I pulled your second inaugural address as mayor of Chicago. I'm going to put on the screen words that you spoke. You said, be a role model for the young people in your life. Share the values that made you who you are with someone who wants to grow up to be like you. Give an adolescent who was born without a prayer his first prayer at getting ahead. Find a way to let young men, invisible for too long, see hope, belief, and expectation in your eyes. Why was that the focus back in 2015 of your second inaugural?
Well, thank you for reading it. I mean, I was working, obviously, increasing high school graduation. I was looking with Dr. Janice Jackson, the chancellor of our schools, at data, and also doing things in our after-school program, summer jobs program, and it was becoming quite evident to me, just looking at this, we had a massive crisis. We had not only, in the sense of what the data was saying, interacting with kids, and I would participate in this program called Becoming a Man, and we blew it up from 100 to about 8,000 young men in a mentoring program. And it's the largest mentoring program in the country. It was the inspiration for President Obama's My Brother's Keeper. And these were just empty souls yearning for somebody to emotionally connect to them. And so when I looked not only at the data, but also what I was experiencing as mayor, that we had a crisis on our hand. And if it was any other group, any other kind of downtrodden group, we'd be screaming as a country and also as Democrats. But these were boys. And so therefore they didn't have the kind of we didn't have the same kind of predisposition to care in that same way. And I realized that I didn't want to speak about pensions. I didn't want to speak about fiscal health. I got yelled at when I told my staff I'm going to do the entire inaugural dedicated to one subject, the lost men of our city and the lost young boys. They thought I was crazy, and I was crazy back a decade ago. But to me, what you could see early on, the echoes of what we're talking about in Richard Reeve's books, in obviously your prior great interviewer,
Scott Galloway.
This topic, Scott, is the idea that we have young boys becoming men. And one subject I say, and I think in that speech, you don't send young boys off to prison hoping they become men. And I am who I am because of the greatest man I ever met, my father. And we have young boys growing up without that. And we have to provide that in some way.
Well, something went right in that Emanuel household, because I know the doctor, I don't know the agent, but I've read all about the interconnectedness. To your political observation, in 2024, during the course of the campaign, I talked here about how I stumbled on the DNC website, and they listed all of these constituent groups that they were serving. 16 different groups, and one of them was women. I think I shamed them into taking it off the website. But talk about the politically incorrect aspect of sitting here and being an advocate for men.
No, it was, listen, I mean, I want to get back to this. It was not either or. And then this group that I helped with the University of Chicago and others, we took from 100 boys. I participated in their group, and we blew it up to 8,000 young men. It has a group called WOW, Working on Womanhood. It's not an either or choice, but we have clearly among young men this yearning to be emotionally connected to a role model that allows you to become not only the human being, but the male that you want to be. And we are raised to be both providers and protectors. And one of the things that we're seeing, and I write about this in this last piece in the Washington Post, is that home ownership has a mythological economic hold, and men have internalized their own failure. And if we don't grab them and make them, help them realize themselves, and in the way that I try to do with my own son, and also as my brothers have done, Ari has done, he has 3 boys, we will lose a generation that have so much to give And they have, the thing that kind of drove me in this effort was to see this not only alienation, but this self-hate internalized. And it was so wrong on so many levels. And a little drop of love, affection, and admiration allows these young men to realize themselves and their full potential, or at least get on the road to it.
I get that it's a complicated subject. We can't appropriately address all of the factors involved in the span of an hour, but you point to the economy, and one of the things that jumped out from your recent op-ed is you said the problem is that real generation over generation prosperity is harder to achieve today. And I know that Scott Galloway often says the best way to help men and everybody else, we've got to restore the middle class.
Yeah, 100%. Look, the American dream over the last 20 years, 2000, starts to recede. Owning a home, saving for your retirement, saving for your kids' education, affording your health care without going into the poorhouse. And every piece of that, the foundational pillars of the American dream, erodes, recedes. We don't score in America the American dream whether the Emanuel children will be okay. They're going to be fine. You know why? They come from a loving home with 2 parents. They're going to be fine. But when 90% of the American public is locked out from the American dream, that's not how we keep score. And we have to say that's unacceptable. And we, all of us, have accepted each pillar as long as our kids were okay or we were okay. We've accepted the erosion of the American dream and the accessibility of the American dream. And people have know the system is rigged. It's rigged against their success. And it's most hardest on young men. And we can't deny that. And it's hardest because they are raised with a value of principle of both provider and protector. And they are failing at the most fundamental test of their own self-identity. And it can't be that hard to just say what I just said without some sense of political correctness. And so to me, there's an economic component. There's other components to this. Yes.
Can I say that it also cuts across all demographics of young men? Because what struck me about your second inaugural address, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that you were speaking in particular to inner city African-American men in Chicago. And more recently, what this data speaks to is a whole lot of white young men. I mean, it's all of young men for different reasons who seem to be struggling.
Well, look, I mean, obviously you know the demographics of the city of Chicago, but you catch on a point, and again, there was participating, probably the best thing I did as mayor was participating and hearing these young boys talk for themselves in BAM. I took other athletes, other people to participate, and again, becoming a man then becomes the inspiration for, because I asked President Obama to participate at Hyde Park High School, which he does in 2012, and it becomes the inspiration for my brother's keeper. But when I started looking at the data with the chancellor of our public schools, one of the things that caught my attention wasn't just African American and Hispanic men, but you were seeing Hispanic women start to surpass white males, boys, educationally. And when you look at kind of the demographics of Chicago public schools, et cetera, that was like, and then I started being the weirdo that I am, started delving into the data, started listening to the echo of these young boys, things that they had said. And it became quite clear to me that this was a crisis. And then again, it became the inspiration to dedicate the entire second article to one subject, not the cross currents of crime, education, fiscal health, economic development, et cetera. I just wanted to talk about this subject. And look, I took my own advice besides growing this group up. I brought in and mentored a young man as mayor. He worked in the mayor's office. We all have a role to play, and it's not based on your title. It's based on who you are, what you've done, what you've accomplished. And, you know, I look at this kind of as my dad used to say, 2 points. One, no child's ever been spoiled by being told they're loved too many times a day. No child. And a government program, while I believe fundamentally in the goodness of government, cannot do that. Cannot do that. Only an individual, a parent, or a father, or a mother can do that, or an uncle, or a coach, or a mentor, or somebody running a summer school program or an after-school program. And that, to me, is the fundamental that our young men are missing. And understanding, no, don't internalize that self-hate. Realize your potential. And that is a responsibility on all of us, every one of us.
For 2 minutes, they've been telling me, you gotta wrap, but there was no way I was interrupting that. Thank you, Mayor.
Well,
I really, Ambassador, whatever the hell I should call you. You have so many titles. I just really appreciate you. So
As I
thank
told
you.
you, Michael.
Thank you.
I answered a crap head and a lot of other things from my own children who I love dearly.
Yeah, that's not the way you said it to me, but that's okay.
I'm cleaning it up.
Thank you.
Well, with the FCC today, who knows? So I'm cleaning it up.
Right. True. Thank you. Okay, Rahm Emanuel, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what you're saying via social media. That was really incredible, the way that he just voiced it. No, why did the solution always seem to be more government? Okay, so BB Sunshine is speaking now to the poll question, and I respect that view, BB. You just heard Rahm say it comes from the home, right? It comes from the community. It comes from mentoring. So maybe if you vote no to the poll question, you're not disregarding the need. Put the poll question up on the screen, Catherine, so that everybody sees what I'm talking about. Do we need government programs that specifically address the struggles facing young men? What Bibi is saying is she's a no vote, doesn't need a government program, but that does not ignore the problem as Rahm just defined it. Still to come, more of your social media reaction. By the way, follow me on X and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's how you can reach me and get on the program yourself. And did you know that according to the most recent numbers from Pew Research, as of 2021, 28% of 40-year-old men, 28% of 40-year-old men have never been married, compared to 22% of the women. And more important, the percentage of unmarried 40-year-olds has been going up regularly and dramatically since 1980, when it was in single digits at 6%. Have traditional roles in marriage become a choice more than a necessity? And is that good for society? We're going to get into that. Sign up for my newsletter when you're voting on the poll question. Steve Breen drew this for us.